Professor Kumaraswamy, who is visiting us, visiting Montreal, visiting Concordia University from New Delhi, where he teaches at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, the oldest, I believe, certainly the most prestigious, the beacon of Indian intellectual life and the hub of Indian educational activities. Professor Kumaraswamy lived for about 10 years in Israel, in Jerusalem, where he was a researcher at the Truman Institute, an institute located at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And upon his return to India, he became the founding father and the leading light of the study of Israel, the study of the Middle East, or as they call it in India, the study of West Asian politics in general. He teaches Israeli government, Israeli politics, the politics of minorities in the Middle East. And most recently, about 6 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, he published his brand new work on Mahatma Gandhi and his views on the creation of the Jewish national home. It is a lecture, it is a book that he's going to present about later on today at the Montreal Jewish Public Library at 7 o'clock. So I'm going to just leave some flyers here. If you are looking for further intellectual treat that Professor Kumaraswamy offers during his stay in Montreal, please join us tonight at 7 o'clock at the Montreal Jewish Public Library, where he will talk about his book about Mahatma Gandhi and his views about the creation of Israel. Now, I had the good fortune of being present in New Delhi at the actual launching of the book at one of the most important Indian think tanks, owned, controlled, managed by the Ministry of Defense, or the Army. It was actually the Indian Army. And I will never remember the modesty and the inspiring words with which Professor Kumaraswamy opened his book launch. And this is what he said: I want to thank for this book, for the fact that this book is here. I want to thank my students, because without my students, I am nothing. And the room was, of course, filled with diplomats, professors, many of his students. And it was a very touching, very inspirational moment for me to be in the presence of a colleague, a friend who even in that moment of pride and glory marked the important contribution and, of course, the benefit from you, from our students. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor over to Professor Kumaraswamy. Please pay very close attention. The material will be on the final exam, and the readings associated with the lecture on the Moodle side. And Professor Kumaraswamy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Founding father, I know I'm pretty old. I don't think I'm a founding father, probably 90 plus. I'm not yet reached there. And you took about 5 minutes of my time. You said I can finish it at 11:30. Let's see. Now, I don't know what you know about India, your understanding of India, how much you know about Indian foreign policy. We will go along and find out. Personally, I'm not in the habit of giving lectures continuously. This is not how I do. I always engage with the class. So I'm going to do the same thing whenever possible. So you're going to be with me at least for the next 1 hour, whether you like it or not. You simply don't have a chance. Okay. Having said that, I'm going to take you a broad sketch of India-Israel relations and one of the challenges. And more or less, we are going to begin at the early part of the 20th century. Say, roughly about the First World War. Because that was the time Palestine came into Indian political discourse. And India was not following much of the region, but the Balfour Declaration raised certain voices in India. But more importantly, the British action against the Ottoman Empire created problems in this subcontinent. You must be familiar with the institution called Caliph, right?
Please explain.
Okay. If you look at it, when Prophet Muhammad died in 632, there was a question that you need somebody to lead. We all like to be individuals, all of them. But at the same time, we cannot exist by ourselves. We always look up to a leader. From the class, from the society, from the community, and at the national level. This is like your Facebook. At one level, you want your own Facebook, but you want 1,000 people to follow you. Okay, that's what the contradiction is. Human beings are not used to living by themselves. So when Prophet Muhammad died, people decided you need somebody to lead, a leader of the community. That is how the office of Caliph came, 632. Over a period of time, the Islamic empire changed from place to place. So from the middle of 16th century, the Ottomans became the Caliph. The Ottomans are present-day Turkey. So the Ottoman Empire had the Caliph from late 16th century. So at the time of the First World War, when Britain attacked the Ottoman Empire, Muslims suddenly felt you are attacking an Islamic empire. Because the Sultan of Ottoman was also the Caliph. The spiritual and the temporal get at one place. So the Indian Muslims suddenly felt it is not Turkey under threat, but the Caliph under threat. But until that time, Indian Muslims never paid any attention to Caliph. Caliph, as we know, it is a Sunni Islamic institution which continued until 1924, when it was abolished by Kemal Atatürk, the founder of the modern Turkish Republic. But the Indian Muslims never paid attention to this, because there were Indian rulers who are Muslims. So they were paying allegiance to Muslim rulers in India, not to the caliphate outside. But one thing changed in the late 19th century. When the British came to India, they removed the last Islamic empire in India, the Mughals. How many of you are familiar with Agra? What is there in Agra?
Taj Mahal.
Taj, exactly. It was built by the Mughals. That's the most important landmark you can think in the Indian context even today. So when the British removed them, suddenly Muslims felt we don't have an empire. And when Ottoman Sultan was attacked, they found out the last Islamic empire is Ottomans, even they are also under threat. It was in that context Indian Muslims began to pay some attention to the Ottomans. We are talking about the First World War. And that was the time Palestine comes into Indian political discussion. Why was the Muslims important? Under the British, India had the largest Muslim population in the world. Which is the largest Muslim country today?
Indonesia.
Indonesia. India has the second largest population today. So when we talk about India's foreign policy, you simply cannot ignore the Muslim component. If India is not a democratic country, fine, it's easier. We are imperfect. Democracy is a daily struggle. It's not just you go and vote in the student union election and forget it. No, it's going to be every day, right? Cut the crap, right? That somebody has put up a poster outside. So democracy is a daily struggle. So therefore, if you are going to be a democratic country, you need to accept the opinion of the Muslim population like everybody else. You simply cannot ignore. At that time, the Palestine comes into picture. In 1917, Balfour says the British were willing to support the establishment of a Jewish national hope in Palestine. So the Indian Muslims looked at it and saying that the Palestine that the British wanted to create a homeland is located in the Ottoman Empire, and according to Islamic history, it is part of the Islamic Waqf property. You will find the same expression in Hamas Charter today. If it is a Waqf property, it's simple English, it means it cannot be given to non-Muslim control, period. is non-negotiable. If you look at it, why is it that Islamic countries today do not accept Israel's existence? It is largely because of this. Theologically, Jews are supposed to be what in Islam? What is the Islamic treatment of the Jews?
Brothers.
Huh?
Brothers.
Brothers? I would jump. That would be much simpler. What's the term?
Fear.
No, I am a kafir. Jews are not. Any idea? How does Islam see the Jews theologically?
People of the book.
People of the book. Or dhimmi. Okay? Dhimmi is the Abrahamic faith. The Christians, the Jews, and in the Iranian context, the Zoroastrians are the dhimmi. The rest are kafirs, like me. So the problem is, dhimmis are to be protected people. They are not equal. That is a fundamental problem. So, not only Jews wanted a homeland, which basically means equality, and they wanted a homeland in a territory which was under Islamic rule from 637 until 1917, with the exception of the Crusade. When the armies of second Caliph Omar captured the city of Jerusalem, that is how Islam became part of Jerusalem. And you talk about Al-Aqsa, the reference to the picture you saw. Al-Aqsa is built on a pre-Islamic, non-Islamic, un-Islamic structure. Because there is no Islam before 632, there is no Islamic presence in Jerusalem before the army of Caliph came. So, from 637 until 1917, when Allenby enters Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem, the Holy Land, has been under continuous Islamic rule, except for the Crusader period, 1097 to 1291, except that period. Otherwise, it is in Islamic for 13 centuries, except for the British. Therefore, when the Balfour promised a Jewish homeland, he was trying to create some things which was not there, and he wanted to create a homeland in an Islamic holy land. I think that is how the Indian Muslims view it. So, creating a homeland is not a problem. Creating a homeland for the Jews is not a problem. Creating a homeland in a territory which was a vast property from 637 is a problem. That is how the Indian Muslims view it. Therefore, they created a movement called Khilafat struggle or Khilafat movement. Khilafat is an Indian version of Caliph. The idea was you are rallying around the Sultan of Ottomans, who is also the head of the religious community. He's a spiritual head and a temporal head. And therefore Indian Muslims felt agitated that British is fighting against Ottomans. It was in this context the Indian nationalists looked at the Palestine question. The Indian National Congress was the leading movement in the national struggle, Indian National Congress. But if you look at it, the Muslim participation in the Congress was very small. Because Muslims actually felt, I want independence, but what happens when the British leave? Britain will be replaced by the Congress Party, which was dominated by the Hindus. So I only have a change of leaders, but I don't have any other space. This is how the Indian Muslims view the freedom struggle. So Congress Party looked at, okay, the Muslim participation to be Indian and national, you need sizable Muslim population. Otherwise, you can't be Indian and national. So I was waiting for an opportunity. The Muslims are fighting for the Khilafat movement. So Mahatma Gandhi was in South Africa, returns to India at that point of time. And he looks at it. The Congress Party needs Muslim support, and the Muslim needs Congress support. Because this was a time the Muslims are fighting for something. As a fellow Indian or brother, I need to support them in the hour of the crisis. And that is how Gandhi compelled the Congress Party to join the Khilafat movement. Khilafat movement is a pan-Islamic struggle. It is nothing to do with India. But Gandhi thought this is the best way to make Muslims and Hindus collaborate against the British. That is how the Palestine question comes into the picture. So the Palestine being located in Ottoman Empire meant Indians recognized we need to support the Muslim position from day one. So from the early 1920s, the Indian National Congress adopted a pro-Arab, pro-Palestinian position on this issue. Yes, sir.
Were they supportive of the Mufti?
Just I'm talking about 1920, just a few years ago. And Gandhi, writing in 1921, says the Jews and Christians can go to Jerusalem, they go to Palestine, they can reside there, but they cannot have sovereign rights. I think that is the context in which the whole problem is. Mufti comes a little later because in 1920s, he met the leaders of the Khilafat movement in Hajj. And that is how the cooperation begins. But the Indian understanding of Palestine was much before that. It's nothing to do with Mufti. Mufti comes and establishes in 1924-25, but the Indian position was there right at the end of the First World War. So when the Indians were supporting the Khilafat movement, suddenly the Ottoman Empire was gone. Kemal Atatürk becomes the new ruler and he establishes the Turkish Republic. And you want to make a complete break from the past, in every sense of the word. He thought the Middle East and the Arabs were not very, we took care of them for centuries. They were disloyal, ungrateful people. So Middle East is not my option. Let me develop Turkey along European lines. He actually changed the alphabets. Turkish alphabets written in Arabic script is simply changed into Roman script or Latin script overnight. And which is not an easy thing because almost the entire Turkish population is Muslim. And the Islamic Quran is written in Arabic. But in Turkey say, okay, even if it's Holy Quran is written in Arabic, I'm going to make Latin script as my country because I want to make a complete break from the past. In the process, he abolished the caliph in 1924. So when the Indians were talking about caliph, Turkey simply said, thank you very much, we don't need it. I want to go further. So the Khilafat movement actually disappeared after 24. But the pro-Arab position which began amidst the Khilafat struggle continued for a very long time. So from 1920s till about 1992, the Indian policy, what you would call the zero-sum game. You adopted a pro-Arab position and that continued for a pretty long time. There were exceptions. We'll come to that in a moment. So in 1947, something happened in the United Nations, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
The Israeli independence.
47.
Oh, the partition one.
UNSCOP. If you remember, UNSCOP had how many members? How many members were there in UNSCOP?
5 or 6, maybe.
5 or 6? Put together 11. You're right, 5 or 6, 11. And one of the members was India. So when the majority supported partition 7, they said partition is the only solution. But India said no, we want a federal Palestine. That is an autonomous Jewish state and an autonomous Arab state within one federal Palestine. Australia was the one which did not support either of the parties. Far away from reality, right? When you are down under, you are completely dealing from everything else. So Australia said, I'm not supporting anything. The two other countries were Iran and Yugoslavia. And India was the one who supported the federal plan. The federal plan was submitted on the 1st of September. And it was 2 weeks after India's independence. The interesting thing is, Gandhi said, let's have a federal India. Let's have India without partition, without Pakistan. We'll make Jinnah as the Prime Minister of India. India was not ready to accept. India said, no, partition is the only way. So you said partition is good for India, partition is bad for Palestine. What was the logic? If you look at the Indian politics, from the 1920s, there were 2 sets of opinion coming up. One was the Congress Party, which talks about inclusive Indian nationalism. The other one was the Muslim League, which talks about the Pakistani nationalism. It's a contest between the 2. The Indian nationalists argued, just because you follow a different religion, you don't become a different nation. Because the moment you accept that argument, India will have maybe 1,000 countries. Because every caste, every religion, every linguistic will have okay, I speak a different language, I'm a different nation. We'll have 1,000 countries in India. So we'll be the largest bloc in the United Nations. Nobody can beat us. So we can pass any resolutions we want. So, but Congress Party said, no, we want one India where everybody can coexist. Multicultural, multi-religious, multi-ethnic society. So therefore, they said, we cannot accept Muslim League argument that Muslims being a different religion, therefore they are a different nation. The same logic they did in Palestine. So the moment you accept Jews as a separate religion and therefore separate nation, you cannot do different positions. In India, you talk about inclusive nationalism. In Palestine, you talk about religion being a different, therefore different nation. The Indians said, no, we will not support either of them. But the tragedy was, in the Indian context, you recognize no matter what you say, partition is a price for freedom. Whether you like it, you don't like it, communal partition is bad, you recognize if India wants to be independent, there is no other way out but to accept Pakistani nationalism. So partition became an inevitable price for freedom. Palestine was a little far away, so you can still talk about moralizing. No, I don't believe that Jews being a different people can form, therefore becoming a different nation. This is largely because Indians never understood the evolution of Jewish nationalism. You have any idea what's the population of India? 1.2 billion. Thanks. And how many Jews are there in India? Just over 4,000. Just over 4,000 in a country of 1.2 billion people. The highest number we ever had was 30,000. Between the First and the Second World War, when large number of refugees came from outside. While the Jewish presence in India dates back to the 1st century AD, shortly after the destruction of the Second Temple, the Jewish presence in India was extremely, extremely small. So when you don't know your people, you generally don't even think of them important in your existence. Even myself, I met the first Jewish person 3 years into my PhD when I wanted to apply for a visa. Till such time, I've never met a Jewish person in my life. So I had to apply, so I had to go to Mumbai and apply for a visa because at that time there was no embassy in Delhi. So when Jewish persons were extremely small, but correspondingly, we are the large Islamic population. It's a deadly combination. So not only I don't understand you, but I understand all the negative things from the other side. So with the result, this is how the Jewish nationalism was captured in the Indian imagination. So we never understood the Jews were basically seen as a religious group, not as a national identity. No, it never came to Indian understanding. So in 1947, we said, okay, there will be one federal Palestine with autonomous Jews and Arabs. You know the funny part is, in 1947, That is the only time the Arabs and Jews agreed on anything. You must be studying. There are two communist parties, right? One for the Arabs, one for the Jews. Communist party is supposed to be transnational, beyond the boundaries, everything. But in Palestine, they could not have one communist party. There are two. Read the documents. It says only 3 places they were worked together. Only 2, not 3, only 2. One, the British government, and the Dead Sea Works. These were the 2 places the Arabs and Jews were under the same umbrella. They did not even buy bread from the same place. That is the kind of division it existed in that. Therefore, when India said federal Palestine, the Jews and Arabs said, thank you very much. For the Jews, it said, we weren't asking sovereignty, you are giving me local administration. The Arabs said, we were talking a state, you are giving more rights to the Jews. So, it is in the net result was, the Indian plan was supposed to be a compromise. The Arabs said, thank you very much, and the Jews said, thank you very much. Therefore, when we talk about November 1947 UN resolution, the Indian federal plan was never discussed in the United Nations. Never. You will not even say, it's even academics don't even talk about it. Because it was rejected by everybody. If you look at it, United Nations is not a legal body. I don't know how much importance you attach to UN. For me, it's a talk shop, nothing more. The voting behavior of a country is nothing to do with the case. It's largely determined by your political interest. As simple as that. So therefore, when India wanted to convince the body, you don't give a legal argument, you recognize, okay, is it a feasible proposition? Will more people support me? That should be the attitude. But Indian plan was not supported by everybody else. So when the partition proposal came, India voted against. In 1949, when Israel applied for the UN membership for the second time, India voted against. To the best of my knowledge, this was the only time India opposed a membership of anyone in the United Nations. All the things, when anti-Semitism was alien to Indian culture. We don't even know what it is. When all the other countries talked about the Jews, India never had any incident of anti-Semitism except one in Goa, when it was under Portuguese occupation, fallout of Inquisition. Otherwise, India never had anything anti-Semitic in 2000 years of history. Still, you could not appreciate the Jewish nationalism because you never had a large Jewish population, you never understood the Jewish history, you never understood the evolution of Zionism. But the reality is much stronger. Okay, India opposed Israel's partition, Israel's partition, but you recognize all the major powers have recognized Israel, except China. All the 4 permanent members recognize Israel. Israel is member of the United Nations. Okay, I don't like that. I have to accept the reality. Therefore, in 1950, September 17th, incidentally, the day Modi was born, on that day, the present Prime Minister was born on that day. It's an interesting coincidence. India recognized Israel. And if you look at the official figures, India was eager to have a normal relation. Nehru actually told an Israeli diplomat, yes, we will have normal relations, we will open embassy, we don't want honorary representation, we will have a full-fledged resident mission in Tel Aviv. I'm asking my officials to work out the budget. This is what Nehru said in 1952. And he said, we are in the middle of an election. The first general election was taking place. Once the elections are over, I will put it to the cabinet, get the cabinet approval, we'll have relations. This is what Nehru said in March 1952. Yes. You have any idea about Hindi language? Okay. In Hindi, the word for yesterday is kal. The word for tomorrow is also kal. So when I say kal, you don't know I'm talking about yesterday or tomorrow until I finish the sentence. You will not even figure it. Why I'm saying is, there is one thing India never had, probably never will have. Time dimension. So if I say I'll do it, either I should do it now, I'll see it tomorrow. So your reference point of tomorrow may be 24 hours. In my case, maybe 3 decades. So the time dimension doesn't exist. So in March 1952, Nehru said, we will have relations. Yes. We had relations in January 1992. 4 decades. Nothing much. That's why it took about 4 years, 4 decades to fulfill Nehru's plan. Quite a lot of things have happened. Initially, India was looking for financial reasons. Budget was a problem. Israel is not a major power. We were struggling to have embassies in big cities, but Israel was not a top priority. We were working on it, not a major one. There was not many diplomats at that time. Something happened in 1956.
Suez crisis?
Suez crisis. And the tripartite relation. So Nehru's problem was not Israel attacking Egypt was not a problem. If you look at it, so many countries were attacking so many at that time. A lot of countries were fighting. Nehru's problem was Israel collaborated with British and French to attack Egypt. That's what Nehru's problem was. Nehru was looking at Nasser as an ally in the emerging third world consensus. Afro-Asian solidarity, non-alignment was still in the beginning. So Nehru was looking up to Nasser as one of the potential players who could fight colonialism, imperialism, because a bulk of the African continent was still a colony. Large number of countries were not independent. 170. In 1945, only 45 countries are members of the United Nations. So bulk of Africa was a colonized world. So Nehru was working with Nasser and others against imperialism, against colonialism. But Israel joined hands with Britain and France and attacked Egypt. And therefore Nehru comes up and says, time is not right for having a relation with Israel. In 1956 he says, no, I don't want to have relations at this point of time. From that time till 92, Indian leaders always said, time is not right for having relations with Israel. This has been the general Indian theme for the next 35 years. Over the year, you added so many support for the Palestinians, all the other things added up. Israel policy is not right, whole lot of things were added up. And you recognize until there is a transformation at the international level, Indian policy will not change. There had to be a change in the international structure. Without that, India will not change its policy. That came in 92. Few things happened. End of the Cold War. Disappearance of the Soviet Union. Madrid Conference. And Madrid Conference also meant one other thing. Until then, the PLO was talking about a military settlement. But in Madrid, they agreed for a political settlement with Israel. Political settlement presupposes, I will not get everything I want. Military solution can mean your complete annihilation. Political settlement basically means, I have certain demands, but I have to reach the agreement, I need to concede to some of your demands. Which basically meant the Palestinians were ready to make a political settlement with Israel. And that is what it indicates. Otherwise, why would you go to Madrid? So at that point, India looked at it. You are supporting the Soviet Union for all the 30 years, suddenly Soviet Union disappeared. So you are in the wrong end of the stick. Or you are on the losing side. You don't like the United States for a variety of reasons, largely political, nothing ideological, because of US support to Pakistan and everything else. But today, US is the only player in the game. So you need to accept a world order dominated by the United States. And when you look at the Palestinians, you are supporting the Palestinians. The Palestinians are ready to make a political settlement with Israel. So the question is, yes, sir.
Was the political tensions between India and Pakistan influential in recognizing the Israeli side as a minority?
Okay, if you look at it from the 1920s to 1947, it was between Congress Party versus Muslim League, domestically. It's a power struggle. Who represents the Indian Muslims? Congress Party or the Muslim League? After 47, it became Indo-Pakistan conflict, which was primarily played out in the Middle East. So both the countries were trying to get support of the Arab and Islamic countries. Pakistan was using the Islamic card. India was using the secular one. Then he said, no, secular alone is not enough. Then he said, okay, I support the Palestinians from 1920. So the support for Palestinians became an instrument for India to promote its interest in the Middle East. Largely a rivalry between India and Pakistan. Internally, up to one point, but externally after 1947. Back to 92. And more importantly, you saw Arafat agreeing go to Madrid. Then you ask the question, is it necessary to be more Catholic than the Pope? If Arafat is ready to talk to Israel, why should I have a problem with Israel? India never had a problem with Israel, ideologically, politically, any other issue. There is not a territorial dispute. It's not like a China and Pakistan, you fought wars. So therefore, when you look at it, if Arafat is ready to go to Madrid, why should I keep Israel away? It was in that context, India decided to normalize relations. January 1992. So that is so what I would say, the second phase, 1992, which more or less continued till about 2004. The earlier phase, what I would call zero-sum game. You recognize to be supportive of Palestine, you should not have any relations with Israel. Even a minimal relation with Israel was seen as anti-Palestinian. That is how it was understood. You ask a question, India and Pakistan fought wars, India and China fought war, but still there is a Chinese embassy in Delhi. You still have an Indian embassy in Pakistan. But you never had a problem with Israel, but you don't want to have relations with Israel. You know, if you look at it, it's becoming difficult to explain yourself. Forget the rest of the world. Because you believed in zeros. Okay, I'm not supporting the Palestinians, so therefore I will not even talk to Israelis. There is no normal relation to this. The second phase, what I would call parallel track. You recognize it is possible to have relations with Israel. It is possible to have relations with Palestinians at the same time. There is no need that you have to dump one for the other. And that is how the second phase began in 1992. So India established diplomatic missions. You began to have a small and gradual contact with Israel. While having the contact, you always had a balance. Okay, any major statement with Israel was accompanied by a similar visit by Arafat or a pro-Palestinian state. There is always a balance. This is how India dealt with much of the 1990s. The third phase, I would say, roughly began when Congress Party came to power, 2004. This is my understanding. This is how I look at the events. And 10 years of relations, India gradually gained some confidence. Okay, I can deal with Israel. The damage in the region is not very significant. The Arab countries have come to terms with it, so therefore, I could do a next stage. Okay, in Palestine, something happened in 1939. What happened? 1939.
Second World War?
In Palestine. Second World War is in Europe.
Just say 1939, Second World War.
I said Palestine.
The
What happened?
arrival, the arrival of fleeing the Holocaust?
What happened?
The British white paper badge.
Exactly, the white paper. The white paper posed a fundamental challenge to the issue. Do you fight the white paper? Do you support the white paper? What will you do if you are a member of the Zionist executive?
Fight it or support it?
Will you fight or will you support?
Fight
No,
it.
but-
Why?
I'm not sure.
What is the white paper about?
Have my notes.
No. Notes is up here. Notes is up here. This is what I do. Funny thing.
Is it about Brits that they want to fight British?
That's the strategy. What did the British say?
Okay, they wanted to I know that the Jews wanted to fight British because British wanted to unite Jews and Arabs.
Oh, they wouldn't do that at that point of time. It's fine. You're no so closer. Your strategy about is right, but the reason. What was happening in 1939? This is how I do my class because nobody can sleep in my class. Nobody can check mails. They can't do that.
They limited immigration of Jews.
Exactly. You put the limits. More importantly, you renounce your support to Balfour. The fundamental you said, implementing Balfour is not the British policy. And what do you do with it? So you cannot support that policy, say, okay, we will not support Balfour, so okay, we will support the British. No way you can do this. But you can't fight the British. Why can't you fight the British? 1939, why can't you fight the British? If you are abandoning Balfour, you should say, I'll fight the British. Why can't you do that?
Because they're the British.
Oh, no, they're very no. That is it. You have to hear that. Wait, everybody. I believe in socialism, right? Everybody should have a choice. No monopoly. Yes, sir.
Well, A, you're not strong enough to fight the British, and B, they are still kind of the only way you have to ever get your stake. That's fine.
Wasn't it?
No, sir. You are monopolizing the class. Anybody. Why can't you fight the British? Make a wild guess. It's lunchtime, right? Make a wild guess. We'll all have a fun. Yes, lady.
I'm not sure, but were they independent at this time? Were they
Why
nation?
can't you fight the British?
Well, they weren't independent.
Huh?
They weren't independent. It was a British colony.
But you can still fight the British, right? Anti-colonialism, right? We fought the British. Nigerians fought the British. Why can't you?
We need their support.
Why?
They're helping them be.
They abandoned you. They said, thank you very much. No immigration, no Balfour. Why do you still have? Why can't you fight?
Because of the alliance.
They were.
Because they were fighting Germany in Europe.
Exactly. They were the ones fighting against Germany. They were the leading figures. So what do? You look at Palestine and you look at Europe. Your choice was not there. You don't have a choice. In life, remember guys, it is never between good and the bad. Your choice is between bad and worse. This guy is bad, that guy is worse. Whom do I take? Life is always like this. You never have the luxury of good and the bad. No, it happens only in the Bible. The reality is not. So, the issue what do I do? In Palestine, I don't need them. But in Britain, in Europe, I need the British. So what do? They came with a brilliant statement. They said, we will fight the white paper as if there is no war, and we will fight the war as if there is no white paper. That's what it is. They say, we will fight the war, that is, war in Europe, as if there is no white paper. That is, white paper affecting Mandate Palestine. And we will fight the white paper in Palestine as if there is no war in Britain. Which meant, you fight the British in Palestine and collaborate with them in Europe. Yeah.
It wasn't only the familial affiliations, though. They also fought strategically to learn about how to fight so that they could fight the British
That's the
That was
second.
the
This
hard-
is the basic political statement. This is how the entire strategy was evolved. But fighting the war meant you develop a Jewish army. The Jewish brigade was developed, which fought in Britain. 20,000 people. Which was very useful when the state of Israel was created. They came back. It's not like, no, we strongly support a pamphlet. No. The issue was fighting Britain in Palestine, but they were fighting with the British by asking the Jewish to volunteer in the Jewish brigade. 20,000 people. This is how you do it. It's not, in life you need to make choices in a very skillful manner. You can't simply say, okay, you are a Balfour abandoning, I'm going to fight. What happens in Europe is in Europe, I'm not worried. You can't. Because his Jewish homeland was supposed to be a homeland for Jews everywhere, not just in Palestine. So you can't ignore Europe. At the same time, because of Europe, you can't, okay, what happens if Palestine is different? Let me only think about Europe. You can't. This is how you do in a complexities. And I think I would say this is exactly what India did in the third phase. They said, okay, you recognize, bilaterally I want good relations with Israel. Whole range of issues, military, technology, politics and everything. But multilaterally, I have a problem with Israel. That is, in the peace process. So India doesn't agree with Israel on a whole range of issues on the peace process. Talking to PLO, Palestinian state, refugees, borders, settlement, all these issues, India and Israel do not agree. What India did. I am going to pursue the peace process as if there is no bilateral relations with Israel. Which meant you keep on criticizing Israel on all the issues. Settlement is bad, border is difficult, refugee problem you have to settle down, you have to talk to PLO, there have to be a Palestinian state, all these issues. You forgot there is a bilateral relations. And the bilateral relations, you forgot all the peace process. When Israel said, I want to launch a satellite, which is most likely to be used to monitor the Iranian, of course I will do it. India launched an Israeli satellite. How do you explain that? At one level, you criticize Israel on the peace process. At another level, you say, okay, you want a satellite? I'll launch it. We know that a satellite is meant for an Iranian nuclear program. They launched a satellite yesterday.
What year was that?
2005. And that's what? Oh, sorry, 2008. Sorry, 2008. That is what it was. So, if you look at it, there is a dichotomy between the bilateral relations, which they were willing to pursue all the way. Some of the major military deals were signed during this period. India and Israel, okay, let's jointly develop missile defense system. Yes, we'll do it. There was a regular contact between the Ministry of Defense in India and the Ministry of Defense in Israel. National Security Advisor contacting, army chiefs were visiting, naval vessels, everything was going on. But there was no political contacts. And that is how it was managed. So that was the third stage, which continued, I would say, for about 10 years when the Congress party was in power. And the last phase begins with Narendra Modi. 2014. When Modi became the Prime Minister, there were a lot of interesting things. Because until then,
Kumar, could you write his name on the blackboard? Thanks.
and if you look at when he became Prime Minister, things are rather interesting. The previous 10 years, there was not many political visits between the two countries. And a couple of times when the National Day was celebrated by Israel, even Indian ministers was not ready to come to the event in Delhi. Forget about going to Israel. They were not even ready to come to the events. Only party officials came and they were all talking and having a cocktail. The moment the ambassador said, let's start, the person I saw him just going away. Because they don't want to be seen. It was not politically correct to do that. It was not easy for Israeli embassy to organize a lot of visits during that period. Modi completely changed. If you look back to the day, when the parliament elections were coming out, the first person to call him was Benjamin Netanyahu. Because he knew Modi is going to win. Even before the results are announced, around 11 o'clock Indian time, he simply picked up the phone. I'm very happy to you are going to win. Congratulations. Even Obama came much later. So Israel was the first country to do it. From then onwards, Modi and Netanyahu were actually like you and me, tweeting and sending messages and all sorts of things on a regular basis. He sends in his secretary basically, sends in Hebrew, and Netanyahu sends in Hindi. So all of them is going on for the last 3.5 years. And Israeli visiting Israel became very normal. So he has engaged in a number of times. Whenever he had a chance, he met Netanyahu in the United Nations. He met the Israeli president Reuven Rivlin in Singapore for an event for occasion. And Israeli defense minister came to India. So you have an enormous business going on from 2014. And the climax was last July, when Modi himself visited Israel. 3-day visit, and in 3-day visit, you've been to Israel, right? Not yet. If you have seen the Israeli prime minister, prime minister, all of them, they look very young on the day they get elected. You should see them 24 hours later. Suddenly they become 10 years old. The workload is so heavy. It's actually, sometimes I wonder, why would anybody want to be the Israeli prime minister? It's such a hectic and heavy demanding job. Okay? You simply don't have a space. You're always, it's like you're 24/7, you're monitored in the sense media and everything. But Netanyahu was actually babysitting the Indian Prime Minister for 3 days. Except when Modi was sleeping, he was with him from morning to evening, from airport to airport, every single evening. And the Israelis were not very happy. We are discussing Knesset and all the things. What is he doing? No, we can wait. I want to spend my time with Modi. This is, you never seen, even when the American president visits Israel, they don't do that. Take a look at all the previous one, Clinton and everybody. You meet reception, but you won't spend 24 hours holding the hand and every single thing. Only thing you didn't do was put the property, cover the wrap, and when you sleep, okay, put the blanket, it's okay, sleep, good night, I'll come back tomorrow morning. That's probably the only thing he didn't do. He literally did everything you can do. Constantly, and his wife did. You ask a question, why would an Israeli prime minister put so much capital on a visiting dignity? Time and stones, if you are making priorities. And that is what you will see, something interesting is happening. If you look at Israeli foreign policy, Israel never had great friends from 1948. Friends were there at some point of time. If you look at them, they were not many friends. US has been the only friend they ever had from the beginning. But even that became questionable under Obama. All the stories became what happened to Obama and Netanyahu for 8 full years. And if you look at it, Europe is not very friendly towards Israel. The only exception you can say is Germany. That's because of the historical baggage. Otherwise, you can count from east or west, it doesn't make a difference. You don't have much friends in Europe. In the immediate neighborhood, you have countries with whom you can have an understanding on an issue base, but not somebody you can say a dependable friend. That's exactly the situation for Israeli foreign policy landscape. You have Marshall Islands and some other. It doesn't make a difference in the power constellation. From an Israeli point of view, India is seen as what I would call a dependable friend. It's not an ally. India cannot be an ally of anybody. That's a dangerous path to take. But India is probably emerging as someone with whom Israel can not only do business in the military sense, but also have a political conversation because of the diversity it has. I think one of the first things probably your professor would have told you on Israeli domestic politics is when there are 2 Israelis, you have 3 political parties. Right? That is the basic premise. So that is a kind of internal, you can say division, but you say that is how intellectual discussions happen. And the bottom line is not agreement. Bottom line is civility. That's the bottom line. I agree, we disagree, and let's have coffee. No, I don't like you. I don't want to see your face. No, get lost. No, that's not the way. So if you look at it, that is an integral to Israeli culture. And India is not different. It's, I don't know who influenced whom. We are equally acrimonious people. We don't agree on anything under the sun. Even to say yes, okay, which language you say yes? Okay, no, I will say mother tongue. No, even from that, say a yes, it's going to be a problem. It's not going to be that easy to say all of us say yes. No. You say in Tamil, I say in English, you say in French. So everything is different. So India is emerging as a country of diversity. So from the Israeli point of view, this is an interesting thing. If you look at some of the major diplomatic appointments, India is getting some of the top class Israeli diplomats, vice versa. And there is a military dimension, which probably most of you are familiar with. But there is also other non-military things. If an Indian Prime Minister goes to probably United States, or even to Canada, I don't think probably you will have a conversation only with the political elite. Suppose if an Indian walks in the street, can you find something in common to talk other than the Indian restaurant? Anything else you can have a conversation? Sure to come. After that, third point, which is not the case in Israel. If you look at it, the moment you have a conversation at the different layers because of the diversity. From the Indian music, Indian philosophy, yoga, food, dress, culture, music, everything, or IT. You name it. Cricket is not popular in Israel yet. We are trying to get it. So that is what it is. So if you look at it, you have a conversation at a variety of areas. And I think, suppose Indian Prime Minister go to Saudi Arabia, what will be the conversation? Only at a higher elite level. But in Israel, you have different layers. If you have 14 floors, all the 14 floors you can have a discussion. And each one will have a different engagement. And from Modi's point of view, he is not treating Israel in isolation. It's not that he's going to Israel, he's not talking to others. No. If you look at it, since 2014, Indian leaders have visited all the 20 countries of the Arab world and the Islamic world. All of them. From Morocco to Iran, they were there every single place. The only country Indian leaders did not visit was Libya. And we don't even have an embassy there. Otherwise,
I don't think they came to Lebanon either, though.
Of course they came. Ministry of State came. MJ Akbar was there. No, I said leaders.
Yeah.
MJ Akbar was there. All the civil war countries in Yemen, in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iraq, they were there. Junior ministers were there since 2014. Every single one. There is no exception. And you ask a question, India and UAE are the largest trading partners. When was the last Indian Prime Ministers to visit UAE? 1981. At one level you say these countries are important, but at other level you don't pay political attention to that. Modi has changed. So while he's talking to Israel, he's not ignoring others, which basically means he's normalizing Israel with the Middle East. It's not that, no, I talk to Israel, I can't talk to others, I'm talking to others, I can't talk to you. No, I'm talking to everybody. Why is it possible? The agenda is economic, not politics. The moment you talk about a strategic relationship, military and everything, you can talk only selectively. If you take them, can you help me in Indian economic development? Okay, you can offer technology, this person can give me money, that person can give me resources, that person give me energy. All of them I need. Each country, if you look at it, all of us individually have certain unique things. Every one of us. It's not that only I have, he has, you don't. No. All of us have unique things. Our job is to identify what you are unique about it and push it. That is what the teacher's job is. Teacher's job is not to judge. I don't see myself. My job is to know what you are good at it. And push you in the corner. Yes, sir.
Kumar, what role do you think the ideology of the political party that Prime Minister Modi comes from represents in this shift?
Very marginal. If you say that, it's India is a right-wing party, so therefore Likud is a right-wing, so there is a convergence of right-wing alliance. Fair enough. Right. Then how do you explain Modi having a good relations with the Ayatollahs? How do you explain that he is meeting the Saudi kings every time from 2014. How do you explain that? He is meeting the Emirati Crown Prince on a regular basis. They already met 4 times. How do you explain that? So, if you meet only Netanyahu, you're right. If he deals only with Israel, you're right. He only deals with the military issues, you're right. That's not the case. When Modi was in Israel, everybody said, no, they are going to sign a military deal. Nothing came. He was talking about water, recycling, waste management, agriculture. You will not expect a prime minister to talk about all these things with Israel. That's exactly what Modi did. So when Netanyahu came to Israel, he was talking the same thing. He was not talking about a missile defense. He was not talking about Arrow, Indo, none of them. So when your agenda is political, you are right. People will see the ideological convergence. When your agenda is economic, ideology becomes less and less important. And that is what Modi is doing even with Japan. So when you talk to Japan, you will say, okay, it's anti-China. But you talk to China also. You want a Chinese investment in India. You may not agree on the one Belt One Road, but I want Chinese investment in India. So if you look at all of them, the bottom line is economic development. So in that context, people will try to make a political thing, but we need evidence. Hindutva ideology and the Likud ideology, does it mean it's Hindutva ideology and the Iranian clergy? Or the Wahhabi Hindutva alliance? No. But then when it comes to Saudi Arabia, you say energy convergence, energy security. The same way. So what is happening is, I would say that if you study the Israeli foreign policy, I don't know what you thought about India so far, but if you really want to understand the Israeli priorities in terms of foreign policy, you need to look east. You need to look at India. Because India is gaining importance in the Israeli foreign policy sector in terms of priority. I think, if you really wanted to look at the shift, while Modi given opportunity, Israel is also looking at the Asia. No matter how you look at it, the center of gravity of international economy is in Asia. Whether you like it, you don't like it, that's a different story. If you look at the United States, national economy, the 4th largest economies individual, are located in the Asia Pacific, not in Europe. You are not far away from Asia Pacific. Only thing is, instead of looking east, you have to look west. I stop at this point of time. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So in your period that you mentioned, 1920 to 1992, the whole zero-sum period, you were saying that India, officially statements saying we support the Palestinians and zero-sum, if we support them, we can't support the Israelis. What I'm curious about was there any effort on the Indian part to militarily or economically or through political lobbying actually help the Palestinians throughout that period? Or was it only official statements, we support this and not this?
The good thing is we never interfered in the military sense.
Okay, so it was simply just rhetoric.
It's not just rhetoric, because if you look at it, till the economic reform, India did not have the economic capacity to help. Okay, and therefore we had a moral high ground till about 60. We got independence through non-violent means, fine. But in 62, we lost the war in China. And therefore your international standing completely collapsed. After that, you simply have no role to play internationally. And India was dependent on international aid. In 1991, I don't know how much your family, what do you normally do if there is a financial crisis in the family? Suddenly your family lost money. How do you do? How do you manage? Huh?
Ask friend.
Ask friends. Which friends you got? Okay, we should ask him. Whatever, I'll take your number. I'll just call you on Tuesday. That's good. What do you normally do, sir?
You work.
You work. What do normally Indian men do when there is a financial crisis in the family? Ooh. Somebody's trying to answer me. Okay. They go to the woman, wife's mother, give me your children. They take the jewelry and mortgage it. That's what they do. India did exactly the same. In 1991, when you did not have money to pay for your foreign exchange, you lifted 200 tons of gold to London Stock Exchange, mortgaged it so that you can buy basic essential commodities. That was how Indian economic reforms began. And today, we are the third largest oil importer in the world, fourth largest economy in purchasing power parity after Japan. Give us 10 years, we'll overtake Japan as third largest economy. That's what it is. So as in the 90s, I can only give rhetoric. We strongly support.
Right. So,
nothing else.
So are you saying then that if they were economically efficient, that if they had money, they would have physically supported? Or was it simply political maneuvering, which makes sense?
Hypothetically, I wouldn't go into this.
Fair enough.
I wouldn't go into that. I'm glad we did not go beyond political support.
No, fair enough. Yeah, I'm just
Because
wondering.
the Chinese did a lot of
mentality.
things. If you look at Chinese, they provided the ideological support, military support. Thank God we didn't go to that level. It would have been more problematic. Yes, sir.
Considering that your phase between 1920 and 1992 spans both the time when India included both Pakistan, Bangladesh, and afterwards, what is your, especially considering the acrimonious relationship between India and Pakistan, what are your thoughts at how that the both maintain relatively similar thoughts in terms of vis-a-vis the Israeli versus Palestinians, even after a large chunk of the Muslim population left following the partition plan?
So that is what I said. Till 47, this was a domestic fight between the Communists and the Muslim League. After 47, it is a political fight between India and Pakistan, which was largely fought in the Middle East. Who will be the more supportive of Palestinian, India or Pakistan?
But in that sense, it's more of a game of one-upsmanship rather than, say, having opposing views.
It's not opposing views, no. Both are identical views.
I'm saying they didn't have opposing views. I'm saying it's more of a game of one-upsmanship.
Exactly.
But why did it not, say, degrade into that, considering how they, like you said before, they had in terms of proxies, in terms of Soviet and American.
The Middle East was important for both the countries, in terms of oil, in terms of proximity, in terms of religion, everything. Both were important. For Pakistan, Middle East is important. For India, equally, Middle East is important. The only thing is, how do you project yourself? Pakistan said, I'm an Islamic country, and India said, I'm a secular country, but I'm a progressive country. I'm also supportive of the Palestinians. And that is how it is. It is not that it is important only to one to the other. It is both are important. They express their support in a different level. Yes, sir.
In 2010, India, they bought $5 billion with anti-missile strike and $2 billion in New Delhi for a missile. And you see also with Modi this 3-day, which was more intense than they did visit every country in the Middle East, but that's a much more intense visit, I think, than the others. You don't think that there's any movement towards creating an alliance, creating a deeper relationship, especially with the military benefits that Israel has?
No, military will happen even without the Prime Minister's visit. Okay, if you look at military, it's a professional decision. You don't make military decisions on simply emotional grounds. It's a professional decision, so it will happen. Alliance is a difficult proposition. My understanding of an alliance is, if you are an ally of somebody, you sign up A to Z. Whatever you say, I agree. Micronesia can say, I sign up to everything United States says. Can France say everything to US, who can sign up everything? Can Canada say to United States, whatever you do, I agree with you in 100%? You can't. There are limits. So I wouldn't use the word alliance, because alliance will complicate the relationship. I would say dependable friend. In Hebrew, Haver is much more powerful than anything else. Right? So that's what I would say. Yes, sir.
My question had, sorry, well, actually, no. Yeah.
I'm very sorry. We could go on for
Okay,
one
minute. Just
yes, okay, say 1 more minute. Yeah.
You have my email or Facebook or anything. It's simply Kumaraswamy sir will give you. Just if there is any questions, write to me. I'm on the Facebook. You can just follow me. Most of my writings are there in academia or in Facebook. Just search it. It's great to be here.
Please join me in a round of applause.